Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Dead Space Impossible mode. No damage plus restricted room. The restrictions are in the description if you're interested. The big ones are essentially no upgrades, no shop, and no stasis. This is Chapter 7, Into the Void, and we're on an elevator with a bunch of standard slashers. And I don't know if you saw the previous video, but I don't have a lot of ammunition. So the only easy day was yesterday, and now we're in the midst of standing our ground in this corner, but luckily enough, this game is so well designed that this is a really fun sequence rather than a really frustrating one. And you can use telekinesis here to use the blades to try and help you out a little bit, but in the close proximity, what I noticed is Isaac kept grabbing bodies and I kept getting hit. So instead I decided to shoot it because it was the next best thing. And then I'm just going to get some revenge on these guys for thinking they could ambush me out now I've got no bullets. But moving on, we've got a room here. Notice how there's literally necromorphs in every room now. I have no bullets and there are necromorphs everywhere. This is so perfect, dude. It's so perfect. But we've got lots to do and there's lots to overcome. And breaking the pregnant just then, I don't even know how I did it. And it's a mistake because we're now going to have to contend with those creatures that like to jump on you. And there's so many slashers coming up here. But what you won't see, guys, is you won't see a lot of the manipulations I was doing, because this save point here, I was at this section longer than any of the fights thus far, because every time I could open a doorway, every time I could open a locker or some kind of ammunition cache, I made sure it gave me bullets for the plasma cutter. And it took me one time, one of these boxes coming up here that you're going to see, took me like 15 minutes for it to stop giving me money. And you didn't see it because I edited it out, thankfully, but just so you know, guys, I was going back and forth to save points to make sure I was getting ammo, because if I didn't, I couldn't win. But we have a single slasher here. You'll notice I'm going to start using the limbs a bit more when I get the opportunity to on the one encounters. And then I'm just missing all these shots and making it seem like I've got plenty of ammo to spare when I don't. And then we have this room, which I did this room twice. One time I had a capture error. The other time I wasn't recording. I don't know what it was about this room, but it was certainly cursed. But what happens here is every time you put debris into the middle bit, you're going to get spawns of enemies. And the first spawn is the wonderful teleporting leaper. And it's really interesting, this creature, because not only is it super dangerous when it wants to be, but it's also super dumb and super casual when it wants to be. So right now, I am not afraid of this monster because I know he's going to just be an idiot. And there's a few of them. And if you stand here, you can get them all to kind of come to you. The one thing you want to watch out for is when they fly and attack. It's got weird detection, it's got a big hitbox, and sometimes they will preemptively jump to where you're going to strafe. And the amount of times I've strafed into their attack instead of dodging it is off the charts. But a lot of the times, if you just kind of stand there, they have so much difficulty getting to you that it turns into this almost comedy show of what will he do next. Like, look at this guy. He's having a lot of difficulty coming to me. And I don't even need to shoot him. You can wait and he'll jump and kill himself like that. And I could have totally done that a bunch of times. But again, if I can shoot, I'd like to. That's my preference. But there's a node room in here, and the node room is your best friend coming off the Leviathan, because it's going to definitely give you a nice boost. The issue remains, this room, like the previous room, and like many of the rooms to come, has a lot of necromorphs when it kicks off. So even when we do this puzzle, you're going to be assailed by a lot of enemies afterwards too. And we're getting to the part where the game really puts its foot down. And usually I would love that, but being cognizant of so little ammo definitely took the enjoyment out of some of it. Because truth be told, guys, when I do these challenge runs, I want to overcome the problems the game presents me. But I don't want to have to worry about ammo, and I know that sounds almost stupid because it's a survival horror game and worrying about ammo is what they're all about. But when it comes to Dead Space, like, everything was going so great and now it's not. But you need to be careful here, there's a couple of lurkers, and all of this is on the same checkpoint as well. The only difficult part of this room is you have to do all these waves without saving. And you can go back and save if you want to do that to kind of segment it. And I would recommend, if you're not having any fun, to totally do that, but it's completely doable either way. And you can tell with the music that something right now wants to kill me. It's behind me, do you hear it? So I can hear it, but I can't see it, and there you go. So we've got two lurkers here. That one dies really quickly and he drops ammo. This one wants to jump on me, so watch out for him. But this is a creature I don't want to see when I'm struggling on bullets, because it's a creature I can't seemingly do anything to stop it any quicker than shooting it a bunch of times. And if it was Leapers right now, I could manipulate this room to try and get them to kill themselves by jumping through this central, like, fire beam that's happening here. And the cool thing about the Leapers is they will kill themselves a lot. Lurkers can kill themselves, but they seem to be a little smarter. And right now, I'm kind of having a glance around just to see what's going on. Taking it slow because the spawns here got me a few times. And I can't see too much going on. I'm also getting a little disorientated by this sequence, because I know that the fireball is there, but I can't quite see it. So we put that one in. We put that one in. And I can't hear a vent go through. I can't hear anybody turn up. Is it... There we go. That's all the debris done. Is it when you touch the button and it brings up the control panel? Because again, guys, once you press this button, technically you could probably skip all these enemies coming up. And I wanted to try my best not to skip anything. Later on, when it gets really dark, I have to skip some fights. But it hurts me to do it because I'm not that kind of player. So here we've got 2 slashers coming out of this vent. And there's a... Is that an explosive? Exploder or a pregnant? I couldn't quite see. But we get rid of the slashers. There's somebody directly... There he is, explodey guy. So I'm going to take his arm. And I'm going to use his arm here, hopefully, and try not to kill myself. That wasn't as optimal as I would have liked, but there's somebody behind me right now, so I have to keep moving. And you might be thinking, you know, why don't you turn around and see if there's anything there? Well, the problem with Dead Space is when you turn around, you give them permission to move faster. And I think the creature that was sneaking up on me has gone round the other side now. Or it might just... There he is. It was that guy. There's 2 guys over there that were moving quite quickly. But camera manipulation is really effective in these games, and it can keep you alive. The problem is it goes against all your survival instincts. Why would you not want to see what the enemy's doing? It seems insane, doesn't it? Why would you take the camera off them? Well, believe you me, it's really helpful. And it's super alien at first, but once you get used to it, you'll start using it a lot. And believe it or not, guys, you can use strategies like that in action games as well. Things like Devil May Cry, things like even Dark Souls. You know? It's really interesting how camera manipulation can keep you alive. And look at the game dropping contact beams when I don't have a contact beam. I really need to test some stuff on this game. The only problem with it is I've been playing so many other games, when I come back to it I forget how to play. I'm pressing all the wrong buttons and it gets really confusing. And then the new one comes out in like less than a month, isn't it? I think it's about a month today. And a lot of people have been asking me, Chris, are you going to play the remake? Like, come on guys, do you really have to ask? You know, I'm really curious to see what they do with the remake, because I think it's going to be fascinating to see if they can keep to this standard. Because I really think Dead Space 1 is one of the greatest games ever made. I think it is, by far, the best survival horror game. I do. And I know that that's a really controversial opinion, but I just... As far as a game that scared me when I played it when it came out, and a game that made me, like, really, really tense and really stressed, there are no horror games that have done what this game did to me when I first played it. And of course, it doesn't do it to me now. You know, I don't really feel any fear when I play it now. But the mechanics are good. It's got really good combat. It's got really good level design. It's got really good monster design. Like, everything about it, the pacing, the composition, even the story's good. And as much as I'd like to say, like, oh, you know, Resident Evil 4 is the masterpiece and it's the greatest thing in survival horror, I don't think Resident Evil 4 is survival horror. I think that game is way too actiony. It's like Dead Space 2. It's just nuts, you know? And there are many things, like, I love Remake 1. I think Remake 1 is just quintessential Resident Evil, but if you were to ask me, Chris, what do you want to play? I can't aim in Remake 1, you know? I can't make Chris aim his gun at the monsters and be really precise because it's not the same. So for me, this is the one. And I think because it's still survival horror-y, even though you can be so capable and feel so active, I think that's its greatest strength. And that's why, for me, Dead Space 1 is survival horror. And I know there's a bunch of Resident Evil fans that are all like getting really mad at me, and I get it, man, I get it. Resident Evil is the GOAT. But this, to me, it's no contest. It really isn't. These moments are really cool as well, because you have to keep your head on a swivel, and there's a bunch of explosives, but because this is moving, the explosives fall off a lot. And this room coming up is actually kind of hard. And I thought it was stupid when I first got in this room, because they didn't do any damage to Nicole, and what I didn't realise is there's like 20 fucking necromorphs. So I was letting them smack her, thinking that I could just like game this and not use any ammo, but it turns out this sequence is really long, and then you get attacked by necromorphs while she gets attacked, and you've really got to be clever here. Because if I shoot all of these necros, I won't have any bullets left. So I have to use the explosives, I have to use the propane tanks and stuff. Like, I even throw just random stuff in the room at people to try and make a difference. But it's not difficult to do as far as, like, keeping Nicole alive. It's just that it goes on for way too long considering how vulnerable you are. And especially if you don't have the ammo for it. But, like, look at that. Did that even do anything? God, it makes me so frustrated when I see how weird that shit is. Hi. So that's really useful as well, what I did then. I stood here intentionally, guys, because if you shoot him as he's mantling, you don't have to fight him. And then we can use the explosive to get rid of 2. The one mistake I made here is I didn't use all the explosives because I thought I did, and then it turns out that because I was trying to be so frugal, I didn't optimize as well as I would have liked. Like, just then I got lucky that I pushed him through the railing, because I didn't do that right either. That was good, though. Got 2 necros on that one. And then there's this lurker who I should have fired an explosive at, but did you see me? I glanced and I couldn't see one. Technically, there's still one left, and I see it. You won't see it because I've edited it out, but when I turned around, there was another explosive in the corner, and if I'd have used that to kill the lurker, I would have saved a lot more ammo then. But coming back on this monorail, you have a handful of the... I don't know what you call this creature. I think it's like a guardian child or a guardian children or something. A guardian infant, maybe. If you go to the wiki, guys, you can see what everything's called. I often forget the names. It's really funny too, before I got sick, I did go to the wiki and try to memorize all the names so that I'd be able to tell you the enemies when I was doing the recording to make it a bit easier. But it's been so long, I've already forgot. Very professional, I know, but what can I say? But be very careful here, because even if you don't look at the lurkers, they will still shoot you. I've been hit a few times by just trying to gimmick this with the camera, so I definitely recommend shooting them if you can. If you don't have the ammo, you could try to dodge them, but dodging them is just not going to happen. And then at the end here, there's this double slasher moment. And if you get lucky here, these guys can double up, so when you shoot one, you hit the other. But I didn't really get some good crossover on this one. So instead, we're just going to try and use some TK, and we're going to do what we can. And do not go close to that body on the wall. That is like an unformed guardian. I think it might be like an adolescent guardian. They can actually attack you. You can even use them to hurt the other necromorphs. It's really difficult to do that. If you have stasis, it's probably really easy. Get them to jump towards you or stun them, and then freeze them and let it whack them. Because it doesn't discriminate by who it whacks. Oh, and this is body tech, if you've not seen this. If you throw bodies at necromorphs, it does do damage and it knocks them down. But be careful stomping like that. I learnt my lesson on that fail video. And just then, see that? That's the problem with telekinesis. Every so often, if you get stuck on something, you might die, and you might lose. And now this sequence is one of the hardest sequences in the run. This is a chain of rooms with a lot of enemies and not much ammunition, and I'm running out. So you're going to see some chaos coming up here. And again, guys, I don't know if I've spoke about this, because I talk about a lot of stuff on stream, and, you know, I talk about a lot of stuff in videos. But I think that this game shows you exactly how you balance the grip. And for people who haven't played Callisto Protocol has telekinesis in it, but instead of just picking up the environment, you can now pick the enemies up. And it's an interesting spin on the idea of it, but it's way too powerful. And it's way too powerful because there's no real reason not to use it, and you don't need to invest in it for it to be really strong. And it leads to this catch-22 of you have this incredibly powerful tool, but it's too strong. So what do you do? What do you do when you have a cool idea that you want your player to use, but you don't want it to completely undermine everything you've designed? In Dead Space 1, they had this same conundrum, and they solved it. In this game, you do not need energy to pick up things. You can pick up as many things as you want, and there is no cooldown on it, unlike Stasis. They could have given Telekinesis a cooldown, but they didn't, because they were smart. So when you pick up a body part of an enemy and you fire it, It does do damage and it can help you save ammunition, but it's not the best thing in the game. You know, it's nowhere near as strong as it will later be in the sequel. Additionally, you can pick up a lot of items and use them. Can you imagine, guys, if throwing a box at a necromorph killed them? Or throwing, like, money at a necromorph killed it? Or throwing anything you find in the environment, anything that knocks them down, actually kills them? Can you imagine? Like this battery right now. If I fire this at a necromorph, it dies. Can you imagine how dumb this game would have been? You would have literally carried a lunchbox the whole game and been invincible. That's what Callisto Protocol is. Callisto Protocol is literally that brain dead. And what the developers did is, because they knew it was so strong and because they probably thought maybe this is not the best idea, they decided to give it a meter like Stasis. They decided to give it a cooldown bar and an energy bar so that you would use it as a resource. And you might think, well, that cures it. By the way, guys, this is fucking stupid. This room is where the comedy of errors begins. So if you know this encounter, you will know that you have to break a bunch of these, like, gravity tethers. You also have to put something on this core here. But while you're doing this, there are a bunch of black leapers that are having a go at you, and I think this is the first time we've seen the black leaper. This particular variant is so dangerous. Not only is it incredibly aggressive, but it kills you really quickly, and additionally, it takes an absurd amount of damage. I don't have much ammo here, so instead of fighting them, I'm going to do this puzzle while avoiding them. And what this leads to is it's almost a Mickey Mouse engagement of stupidity. I'm going to be jumping from surface to surface to try and bait them onto that ball, and then let that ball's rotating, like, gyroscopic mechanism to kill them. And that guy there, I have no idea who he is or where he came from. And he scared the shit out of me. So I kept him in to show you that happened, because what I did then, guys, is, because I put the charge on, I left the room, I went back and saved, and then I came back to come into this room. And when I came back into this room, I got an opportunity to fight this lurker here, and I got rid of him, because I think the other one died. So now, both lurkers are dead, and the only thing I have to... not lurkers, sorry, they're called leapers. There are lurkers outside, where we're going to be going in a moment. But now that I've killed that leaper, I'm going to go outside, I'm going to ignore the lurkers if I can, and I'm going to do the puzzle. And this is going to be the first instance of me doing puzzles where enemies are actively trying to kill me, because I have to. And right now, I think you have to shoot this too, which is really frustrating. And this is a moment where they want you to use Stasis, and of course you can shoot that without Stasis, but I don't have the ammunition to fuck that up. So I'm going to use Stasis because it's part of the puzzle, so to speak. You will never see me use Stasis in a fight though, guys, because it goes against the rules of the run. But be really careful coming out here. When you come out here, there are dudes chilling in places, and I'm just going to do everything I can to make sure that I'm not here too long. And I really like this sequence. I think it's really clever. I also like the discipline of not making a million enemies in this location, because just looking around now, I'm assuming that there's enemies in places. And I'm not playing with volume either. And when you don't play with volume, you can't hear half of the tells that you need to know where things are, so I'm keeping my head on a swivel. And you might be new to the channel and you might be wondering, wow, why would you not play without volume? And it's mostly because I like watching TV shows or catching up on podcasts or YouTube and stuff while I'm recording. I have serious attention deficit disorder, so when I'm recording I can't focus on the game. I have to do like a million things at once. So I'm usually like watching a video, I'm listening to an album, I'm recording, it's ridiculous. But this is a really dangerous room. So this is multiple slashers and you are locked in here. And the two of them are enhanced as well. So this is really scary. When you have to reload, this is when you have to get quite lucky / know what you're doing. But as long as these guys get stunned, like look at the ammo they take as well. It's unbelievable. Can you believe the Leviathan stole my ammunition and I'm taking on stuff like this? Terrifying. And I picked his head up by accident, but it'll do. But back to the grip discussion. So in Callisto, they gave the grip a resource bar, but then they made you fight small skirmishes instead of large encounters, so there's almost no moment where you don't have enough grip to deal with the situation. And the one situation where you could argue you don't have enough grip, they give you a bunch of chests that refill it. And to me, that just goes to show that they didn't know the limit to put on that tool. And I think that that's really funny, because in this game they did. in this game they limited it in a really good way. And it's still really strong. Like, look at what I'm doing here. I picked up the wrong thing. This is not what I wanted. So he gets to come out now because I picked up the wrong thing. And there's something behind me. Did you hear it? So we have a splitter in this room. And I have this enhanced necromorph coming for me. And this is where things start to get really silly, as you can see. So I'm getting chased to the end of the level by an enhanced necromorph and some splitters. But thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoy the survival horror. And you take care now.